to a new episode of the Mystical Journey. Today is the recap number 2. I'm on my own because Chloe is busy traveling and her internet connection is not good, so we were not able to do a Zoom together. So for the recap, this time we have the following guests that we've had on the show. The first recap was with the first 9 guests, I believe, and this one is with the next 9 guests as well. And we even have the guest from the last show that will be airing on the 21st. So let's start with the first video, and this one is Lisa Paris, and she works with essential oils. So let's take a listen.
And what I learned is that even organic brands, they oftentimes will use fillers in their oils. So you're not getting, it's not 100% pure essential oil. It might have like a different kind of filler oil. And so the oils actually like go into your lymphatic system. And so it's really important to find oils that are pure and don't have other, even if they're organic, it's important to look at the ingredients and see what's in there, because your body's really soaking all of that up. And also if it's cut with things, it's less potent and effective.
Yeah. So Lisa was very interesting, I think, because she had started working with essential oils not long, during COVID. So I think it's interesting to see how COVID has brought some people also to learn more about different techniques, maybe even if it's just for relaxing or mental health. And so the point that she makes here is very interesting, because it's not only because something is organic that it is good. So you want to make sure that the ingredients are pure too when you buy essential oils, but not only for essential oils, for other stuff as well. So the next one is Dr. Orit, wonderful healer. She's treated a lot of people in our families, and she's really such a loving human being that just seeing her is a blessing. So let's take a listen.
Because if you really go to the essence, everything is very simple, and we are to trust that we have a spark of God in us, meaning we're so powerful as human beings. Every single one of us has the same amount of power. Nobody's left without. Even if we feel that we cannot, progress in life, we're held back, we're getting hit on the head, from right and left, and we don't see the way. Even if we're in despair, the thing that we need to realize first and foremost that we have the ability to heal ourselves and our lives if we get the information and the insight and expand our awareness, because that's where the tools are. Okay, we can never look at things that are outside of us to rely on, because today they're here and tomorrow they're gone. So thank goodness we have ourselves. And I think that most of us are not connected, and the things that you mentioned, cell phones and the media and the networks that are around us take us away from ourselves. And again, we're going back to looking at ourselves from the outside in. Perception of ourselves is so far from where it should be, so that we feel empowered and strong and mighty to go through anything. Any challenge that would be brought upon us, is easily resolved when we are connected. And that compass of our inner voice is so precious. It doesn't come from something material. It comes from something that is beyond ourselves, our higher self, our, guides, our, some things that are, metaphysically allowing us to get these messages of where and how to find our path. If we got off, how to go back to the path, how to better our condition and our status. And so first thing is really to be able to be at peace and quiet, because I think there is so much noise all the time. Our brain talks to us, other people talks to us, the media, the social media, all kinds of ideas that we carry from past experiences and traumas. These are all things that are playing a part. If you can really take yourself somewhere in nature, somewhere in your garden, it doesn't have to be hard, it doesn't have to take effort, even in your room. Just make sure that you isolate yourself and allowed to just be without needing to do anything, to just part. And that's what I do. I go to the beach. For me, that's my, I was born off of the shore, and to me that's the most ultimate space to just breathe and be and release. The connection to Mother Earth, if you lay down and allow yourself to just detox, and get filled up, your battery can really get charged, thanks to this amazing support that we have under us. And just breathe the abundance of air that's around us. I think it's very important that people remember to breathe. I think this is something that's really lacking right now. And whatever we need to I'm not talking about fears that have to do with the coronavirus. I'm talking about everybody where they're at right now should find a place that they feel comfortable and safe to breathe, in whatever stage they are, even in anxiety. And breathing is going to allow the body and the brain to function better. All of a sudden, all that suffocation, that anxiety can be calmed down if we just nourish our body with oxygen. This is just the most basic thing, but if we can just lay down, even listen to some music, if that would help to quiet down the noise. Sometimes we need to listen to something else and just allow ourselves to do some breathing exercises.
What I love about Orit is that she really empowers the people who go to see her. She gives them back. It's as if she's giving them back their own power and is allowing them to trust themselves. She's such a wonderful healer and has such a loving message that I would recommend anyone to go and see her. The next guest we have is French, and also I wanted to mention the clips. Sometimes it's very hard to cut different clips when we have the guests because they're talking, and it's difficult to find really which piece we're gonna show or decide that is the most important message, because really you need to watch the different conversations because all these people are fascinating. So the next guest is French. It's Alex Litho, and he works with rocks, and he's very knowledgeable and also very nice, and so he urges people actually to contact him for any problems that they would have, and so that he can advise them on stones that they could use. So here it's two shorter clips of Alex Litho. Let's take a listen.
Il y a des pierres qui reviennent plus souvent ou d'autres par rapport à des problèmes.
Oui, beaucoup l'améthyste. L'améthyste, c'est une pierre qui revient beaucoup. Après, c'est une pierre, voilà, comme on dit, anti-stress, mais bon, elle a beaucoup d'autres vertus, comme les addictions aussi. Le quartz rose revient beaucoup. C'est une pierre d'amour, une pierre de réconfort qui est beaucoup demandée. La citrine, c'est une pierre pour la confiance en soi. Et voilà, c'est les pierres qui reviennent le plus, l'aigle marine. Bon, après, moi, je travaille avec environ 60 pierres différentes. Donc, voilà, c'est vraiment un énorme panel de pierres, de couleurs. Après, selon les chakras aussi, si on se met à travailler sur les chakras, voilà, les pierres ont une couleur et une couleur correspond à un chakra. Donc, voilà, comme la citrine qui est jaune, qui va travailler sur le plexus solaire. Donc, on va plutôt prendre une pierre sur un cordon ou sur une chaîne qui va aller jusqu'au plexus solaire, donc pour bien faire travailler sur ce chakra-là. Voilà.
Est-ce que ça joue de porter son bracelet à un certain côté, un certain poignet? Est-ce que tu penses qu'il y a plus de bénéfices à le porter ou bien ça fait d'autres choses du poignet droit?
Moi, je conseille de porter les protections côté gauche, côté cœur. Moi, là, j'ai mon œil de tigre, là, j'ai mes 3 yeux plus l'œil de tigre. Je porte côté gauche, toutes les protections, je les mets côté cœur.
D'accord.
Après, toutes les autres, bah là, j'ai mon chemin de vie, plus d'autres pierres, voilà, qui sont sur le côté droit. Après, moi, je dis pas qu'on ne peut pas mettre certaines pierres ensemble. Jamais eu de problème là-dessus. Donc, oui, donc voilà, non. Et il faut faut savoir que la lithothérapie, c'est une vibration des minéraux, donc qu'ils soient dans la poche, qu'ils soient au poignet, qu'ils soient autour du cou, ou qu'on dorme à côté sur la table de nuit, la vibration fonctionne.
Ouais.
Ça, voilà. Et après, c'est justement l'histoire du chakra, comme on disait tout avec la citrine, là, c'est vraiment qu'on veut travailler sur le chakra. Là, vraiment, on veut travailler un travail profond sur le chakra. Là, on peut vraiment une position spéciale. Après, je comprends que c'est compliqué de porter une pierre au niveau du troisième œil. Voilà, c'est plus compliqué. Mais voilà, mais sinon, voilà, il faut se dire, c'est une vibration. Donc, peu importe où il est placé sur le corps, la vibration va agir sur nous.
So the last thing he said, talking about the vibration of the gemstones and that anywhere you have them, they will act on you. So, I mean, even for cleansing, he said in other parts of the video that if you want to put your stones in the moonlight, it doesn't need to be outside with the moon directly shining on it. It can be at your window, because he was giving the example of he can't sleep when there's a full moon, and he's not sleeping outside under the moon. So very, very interesting conversation, and a lot of good tips to take care of the rocks. And contact him, feel free, because he really loves giving advice. The next clip that we're gonna watch is Haize. And Haize is a doula, not only a birth doula, but also a death doula. So let's take a listen. Same thing, it's 2 short clips.
I was telling my class that I'm training doulas. I was telling them last night before, because I was like, I got to go to sleep, because I've literally had a birth every day for the past 5 days.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
And I said, I'm doing this class because I want you to see this. I want you to get it. Being a doula is, I know it's trendy, but it's not sexy. It's not romantic. It's not soft and cuddly. It takes a lot out of you. And if you are not willing to honor your self-care, your refueling, feeding your soul, feeding your spirit, making sure you get plenty of sleep, then this is probably not for you, because it's the kind of work that can take and take and take and take and take. And then you have nothing to give. And I let them know that if this work is calling them, then what they need to get is that this is also the work they need done for themselves. Right? So I'm really adamant about my sleep, and I will always try to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep, except when I'm in a birth, of course. But then I immediately put myself back on that schedule by treating birth like jet lag.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm hydrating,
Totally.
I'm eating really well, right? Yeah. And doing my breath work, doing my meditation, doing my dancing or my yoga or whatever, or my stretching, whatever I'm doing, I like really drop into that space. And when I'm off, I'm really off. When I'm off call, I'm not. Birth and life are so similar. I'm always able to parallel something from what I see in the birthing space or pregnancy space to life. And I would say the one thing that I would love for people to do more is to trust themselves and to feel their way through every situation instead of thinking their way through. It's easier to feel your way through. You can navigate it, easier and clearer in a beautiful way, full of grace and ease, and just to trust themselves and trust the process. Whatever they're going through, trust that it's there for the ultimate healing, right? And move on through it with grace and ease, and just keep walking forward and be, just kind to themselves. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. 2 things that I really love about Haize's messages and in the clips that we just showed is number 1, that you have to take care of yourself, right? Like the saying, you put your mask on before putting the mask on others. Um, so you really need to take care of yourself before you can be there and be present for others. The other one that has come repeatedly in different conversations that we've had is the idea of trusting yourself and trusting your feelings sometimes rather than your thinking, which is very interesting. I mean, if you've listened to our conversations, it's a point that we took on with Dr. Garcia, who has a whole chapter in his book on that. So the next guest that we have on here is Remington. He's a fascinating person that Chloe knows through his podcast and his work. He knows a bunch of different techniques. He was raised doing yoga, living on an ashram on the East Coast. He's very interesting, and let's take a listen to what he says in this clip. But I really recommend you listening to him because he's also such a funny person.
It took me finding, for me, it was Kundalini, where I was like, oh, this is very esoteric. This is very magical. It's a system of magic, meaning it's a spiritual system where you cause change for your own empowerment to open up to your destiny. And, you know,
I love the mantra on one of your podcasts, like, oh, I got out of the situation because I was just doing my mantra.
Yeah, I literally was getting arrested for dealing LSD when I was a kid. And I said that mantra, Om Triambakam Yajama Haize Gandhi Pushti Vardadam. And they let me off, man. That, like, because I found my teacher less than a year after that. And my life would have taken a whole different course. Yeah, you got to use magic to, like, you know, if I'm making a legal U-turn, I just say mantras. Now I got this huge 4-wheel drive car, and I'm like literally making a U-turn in LA, and I just drive up on over the curve in the sidewalk. It's pretty funny. But I just
nobody gets.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like Adgidaname, and no, I don't hurt anybody. Nobody notices. The cop didn't see it. Ultimately, that's why I have a deep spiritual practice, is so I could commit crimes. I always thought that would be a good show. I was like, maybe I'll write that.
You merge now your
exactly
practice with the comedy and create like this. Yeah.
I love this conversation that we had with him because it was very fun. I mean, he was at some point like a stand-up comedian, and the way he describes that he's spiritual in a way so that he can commit crime is a very funny way to see it, and I think a show on that, as he mentions, would be very funny. The next clip is with Adela. Adela is a very talented medium and intuitive. She's incredible. I've been to several of her gallery readings, and it's really fascinating. So let's take a listen. Yeah, because you have an interesting view on reincarnation that's not the typical
popular
view. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say popular, but you know, I mean, because people assume that you're just coming back to this realm, when in your knowledge, this is not what happens. Can you explain it a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Well, I did venture it. Don't think I didn't. I always believe in, like, I'm going to check it out. And if it doesn't resonate with me and, you know, isn't vibrating right with me, then it just doesn't, you know. And it doesn't mean there aren't times where, like, maybe I'm going to one day think I'm wrong, you know, because I think we're always shifting and growing and coming to an understanding. Sorry, I feel like I had something here. Because when I deal with the spirit world, I've never had anybody, and I've talked to people who have died 100 years ago or things like that. No one's ever been like, well, you know, they're gone. You know, I've never had that experience, for one. For two, it was shown to me that because we evolve and we grow when we die. When you die, you still evolve and you grow, and you have a chance to grow and evolve. And there's many dimensions and realms that I know a very small about. I believe that I can't ever say to someone, this is how many, this is what it is, because that would be kind of, to me, a ridiculous thing to say, because I don't know for sure. I only know as I'm understanding, I get more information. So what it's been shown to me is that because when you die, let's say you're a new soul and I pass, and I'm like, hey, you want to take a look at my life? And you're like, sure, I can take you through my whole life. And it's almost like a VR experience. Like it's like you've lived it. You can feel everything I felt. You can see everything I see, because that's how I read. When I talk to people who have died, and I've talked to people several times, I sometimes forget I never met them in life. So some people want me to talk to someone, like check in maybe every 6 months or whatever, and they'll take me to where they grew up. I can describe it. I remote view, so I can see the house. I can see what it looked like. I can see their family. And it's so real after a while that it's like I lived it, and that's in this world. So when you're in that world, you can 100% feel times a million what I'm feeling, like you've lived it. So now let's say you're born and you meet my family, it feels like very familiar. Even the area could feel very familiar. And so because I've seen it so strongly that way, it just doesn't resonate with me that, one, we need to come back here, and because you can learn in that realm. And this is like, to me, boot camp. Like I always see it like a camp. Like we all can say, let's go to that camp. You're going to cook, you're going to do this, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to do this. We all have a role, kind of like, what's that? Why is Burning Man or something? It's like going to be like that. Everyone's going to have a role. Not that I've been to Burning Man, but that's what I picture. And we all going to play a role here, but it's a very, like, to me, even when I was a kid, I saw this place as very barbaric. I was like, bodies are weird. You have to eat. You have to do all these body things. You can't just think something and it appears. You can't just think something and someone understands you. It just seemed unfamiliar. And it doesn't match with people thinking I was like an old soul or anything. This place didn't seem familiar to me. So it's not just because of me, it's just because of what that realm has shown me, how I'm able to see so much of people's lives like I've lived it, or like I've known them and I never met them in life, in this life. So that's just what resonates for me.
Oh, that's fascinating. And Adela is just incredible. She's really amazing in her approach, and I think she's very gentle too in her approach. So she doesn't claim that what she's saying is right, but she just states that she has a book out that you can check out. We have, during the conversation, we talk a bit about her book, but in this clip specifically, we talk about her understanding of life after death and reincarnation, which is not the typical view. And I think it's very interesting because it's a new view, and it kind of connects the way that we can talk to people who have passed away through mediums, if you believe in it. And yet you'd wonder, if there is reincarnation, how come you can still connect with the deceased if they are to be reincarnated? And the fact that they're in another realm then could explain, I guess, that discrepancy that we can find. Okay, so the next guest is Shari. Shari is a healer in the Maori tradition, but she's also Native American, so it brings a lot of different techniques together. Let's take a listen.
Generally, if people come to me, even if it's a back pain, 9 times out of 10, it's a spiritual issue, and a disconnect. And I find myself saying this again and again, that, people come to me when they're spiritually sick, and there's a disconnect from their spirit, and they feel lost and scared, and they're off here when they should be here. And fine tuning that, getting them back to them. getting them back in their power, not getting them to, follow me or any of this nonsense, but getting them in their own personal code, getting them back into their power, getting them grounded. And then sometimes that means extracting the negatives, which have gotten in and created a dis-ease or a disillusionment of some sorts of the brain, or off with the wrong man, or you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And getting them here, whether they follow the directions or not is up to them.
Yeah.
And then just getting them, okay, you're stronger now. And it might take 2 or 3 sessions, and sometimes it's 1, and I don't hear from them for 10 years, and that's that. But it's a lot of it is just, I found that I've had this since I was little, an ability to hear, and hear frequencies and hear, so I'm listening to their, and I hear people talk and they're like, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of times, wah, 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 wah. And it's like cutting out the story, cutting out the bullshit, cutting out the lies, cutting out the disillusionment, and getting them into their real power, really, into them, and back into who they are as a soul, who they are as a rather than, the personality.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes there's a fight, but 9 times out of 10 where I'm working and how things are going, people come to me when they are pretty much desperate.
So Shari touches an interesting point when she talks about, first of all, people coming to see her when they're desperate and they don't really know where else to find answers. And I think it is true for a lot of issues that sometimes medicine doesn't really have the answer, because you can do a bunch of different tests and never find what's going on, and you feel like you're going crazy because no one has an answer. But it could be that the problem is spiritual. And one person that we talked to was explaining to us that before a disease is created in the body, it actually lives in the energy around you, in your aura, before it materializes in the body. And it's very interesting. And I mean, it's something that I think of specifically because I've had issues, cancer in the thyroid, and I think, could I have done something to prevent it? I mean, it is an interesting pondering, and also because it can give you some sort of power to think that there is something that you can do about it. Anyway, now we're moving to Belle, who has an aura reading studio, I should say, or photography she's set in Chinatown in downtown LA, and she has a beautiful space. She's very artsy, so really the space is beautiful. And she has a tent where she takes the pictures, the portraits, and then she reads the portraits to you depending on what she sees in your aura. She did not only Chloe and I's portraits, but then she did one of us together, and she does sometimes family. So here she explains a bit about the aura and the colors, and but listen to the interview and go see her, because it's a cool picture to have, and she's such a nice person.
So the film, well, when we take the portrait, you put your hands on these hand sensors, and that's what's translating your vibrations into colors, and then it transposes it onto the film. So we have to wait for the film to develop to see your colors, and everybody has different colors, different combinations. Sometimes if somebody is super focused on a certain area in their life, then they will have one color because they're so in tune on that, or that one chakra is the most open. It doesn't mean that there are no other colors in your aura field. You have 7 layers to your aura. The camera only picks up the most dominant ones and the chakras that are the most open. So you could be one color, one focus right now in your life, but as you grow and evolve, your colors will change. And the people that have more colors just have more things going on. Sometimes people view like the rainbow colors as balanced, and it could be, but there's an opposite to everything. So it could be that you have too much going on, you know. So it could be that you're balanced, or it could be too much, you know.
So take a look at the episode, because you'll see the pictures of Chloe and I and the one of us together, and I think it will make you want to try it out. So the next clip is from a show that hasn't come out yet. It's coming out on the 21st, on the winter solstice. And it's our last show of the year, and we put it here because it is a show from 2021 still, and we wanted Sacha to have a bit of that recap as well. Sasha is Chela's sister. Chela is the one who's been doing the tips for every season change. I mean, they've been in my life for over 20 years. Their mom is one of my very best friends, and Sasha is a yoga teacher. We had taken a class with her just before doing the interview. And here she talks about the different practices of yoga, because I've always been interested in yoga, but I felt that each time I had gone to a gym to try a class, it was very physical and very workout oriented, so I couldn't get it. I had trouble connecting what some people were telling me with what I had experienced, because I'm not a flexible person. I don't work out a lot, so it wasn't enjoyable at all. Until I took a class with Sasha, and she has, I mean, it was also, now I learned it's different types of classes. It was a Kundalini class, so it was very gentle, and you go from with what you can do. It's not, there is no forcing, and she's really a wonderful teacher, and she has workshops going on, especially one that's going to be in Mexico at the beginning of the year, so I recommend you check her out. And her episode will come up on the 21st. So let's take a listen.
You say I teach yoga, then that's the first question that people ask. And so the way I understand it and try to explain it is almost like a flavor or a style or a cuisine. So if you go to a restaurant and they do like Mexican food, that's a certain thing. If you go to a restaurant and they do Japanese food, that's totally different. Like the food is totally different, but you're still eating and you're still receiving, you know, nutrients and energy and all of that. So I kind of think about different yoga in that way. Like it could be a Bikram yoga or Kundalini yoga, or Bikram's probably a bad example now, but you know, different like flavors and styles, depending also on what you need. You know, sometimes in different seasons, like I mentioned hot yoga, like that was really good for me in January in Washington, DC. But I'm not going to do a hot yoga class today because we're in LA and it's like 90 degrees. So just like with food, you might want smoothies and like a raw food only, or you might want like soup and something baked with, you know, potatoes and beans and stuff. So all that to say, it's kind of like different styles of cuisine, and every teacher is kind of like bringing their own offering of yoga to you. But basically with Kundalini yoga, it's a flavor that to me is very healing because there's a lot of repetition. So in a Hatha yoga class, which is what I originally studied and I also am very comfortable teaching, In a Hatha yoga class, you'll experience things that might feel a bit like stretchy and static, right? Like you go into a warrior crescent pose and then you come down and like you kind of are going through a downward dog vinyasa flow. And what's interesting about those classes, those are sometimes what you see like on Instagram yoga, especially when it first started, and you would see people doing very like elaborate kind of poses and stuff. That can be, I think, a little bit intimidating. So a lot of what we consider like the most popular or traditional yoga can be a little intimidating for people to just try out. But like you said, you don't really exercise a lot. Kundalini yoga, you can practice the movements with your breath and the motions, and you can kind of make it your own. So you can push yourself a little bit more, or you can slow down a little bit or take it a little more easy. And you're still getting a lot of the same benefits for your body, but especially for your nervous system.
I love the way she relates yoga to cuisine, and even the different teachers to different way you cook, a different style of cuisine. She's really someone I would recommend for people who are interested in trying out yoga, but also for people who are versed in yoga and want to try another teacher. So this episode with Sacha is going to be our last one until the year 2022, but the spring equinox will be our first episode of the year 2022. We're taking the winter off. So thank you for watching, and we will see you on the 21st, and then again in the spring of 2022. Thank you.